Hey there, happy Sunday. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Welcome to episode 9 of the Watch
Wow.
Soup. I am joined by Clayton from the Watchdog podcast as my permanent co-host. Our other co-host, Sanjay, is not going to be here today. He needed a much needed break this evening, and so I mean the guy works long hours and has like a thousand kids. So I don't know how he even does it, right? I don't even know
Right.
how he does like fits anything in other than that. But he's a machine, and he's got the night. We gave him the night off.
Yeah.
Anyway, Clayton, how are you, my man? What's
Doing
going on?
well. Yeah, like I was telling you, a bit of a crazy weekend, but I'm super pumped to be here. I didn't even get a chance to record a podcast.
Mm,
Not sure if I will after this. We'll see how I'm feeling, but
yeah.
hopefully tomorrow. Going to be delayed. Yeah, just couldn't get it in.
Yeah. No, I get that. There's times, man, where it's like it's so busy, time goes. I mean, I haven't even got the setup. I didn't have time to set up the proper mic that I like to use that you graciously, gave to me for this purpose of the show and the podcast. But hey, it is what it is. We roll with it, right? We
Right.
roll with it, and that's how we get by. What do you got on wrist tonight, man?
I'm wearing the I'll show this side of it. The
Oh, let me get a
Moser
little.
Moser Endeavor
Oh yeah, what a great watch,
lighting's
man.
terrible, but the it this doesn't do this movement
No.
justice.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
So
Yep.
you still honeymooning hard?
Yeah, I'm really just down to 3 watch rotation, the Garmin Instinct, Solar for work, and then this and the Air King, and that's it.
Yeah.
All my other
Wow.
watches are jealous, they're just sitting there doing nothing.
They're just
So
sitting there. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm wearing my Rolex Submariner. It's raining a whole lot in our part of the Northeast this
yeah.
weekend, so having a nice dive watch with a good amount of water resistance is very helpful and very nice to have. And so yeah, so great watch. Um, Yeah, so hey, let's say hello to some people on the chat
Let's do
before
it.
we get into the soup. There is Steve Time Hill. How you doing? Great to be here, guys. Hey, great that you can join us, Steve. Scott is here. How you doing, Scott? Mazone One is here. How you doing, buddy? Justin is strapped in. Hey, big wrist. Howdy, howdy, howdy to you, Cowboy Swami. Sup, fellas? Yeah, we counting episodes now. Yeah, I mean it's episode 9, right? I mean, like
We're
it's a good
one podcast behind, so I always get thrown off because we didn't do one for the first,
the
so
first
it's
one, right, right.
podcast 8, this 9.
Okay, okay. So we'll try to align that next in the next
We'll do a
few
bonus or
podcasts. Yeah.
something.
Yep. Nilo is here. Hey Nilo, underachieving watch collector. How you doing, sir? Ken Spear checking in from Pittsburgh. KR Joy is here. Amin Reviews is here. Good to see you, Amin. Um, hey, Maison saying, hey, I'm in the Moser Club tonight. The funky blue fume
Nice.
matches my pajamas. What is up, my man Nerio Garcia? How you doing, sir? Nathan is here. Greetings from Brisbane. I love that we're international. I love it.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So very, very
What
cool.
do you like 14 4 or no, what, 14 hours? Depending on where you are, I think.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah, something like that, right? Yeah,
like 11 in the morning there. It's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I wanna get a map and put it like behind me and maybe like put little pinpoints where
Yeah.
everybody's at that we know of sort of like generally and have that there because I still get tickled by it just thinking about it. Um, yeah, Moser and Rolex, nice
Yeah.
combination for the evening.
And a
Um,
ratty old t-shirt.
yeah, yeah, and I got my hoodie that I've been wearing for like the last 5 years, right? And then sweatpants. So we like to class it up here,
Right.
for sure. Okay, so if you're if you're new to the channel and new to Watch Soup, basically what we do is we take 3 videos from the YouTube content creators of the past week, and we try to do a little deep dive or conversation, whatever thoughts may spawn from these videos. We try to discuss that with the panel that's on here, which is Clayton and myself, and typically Sanjay, and with you guys at home watching. We love the participation. So we are gonna start cooking. I'm still working. I'm still working. I'm still working on
Time
it.
to serve the soup, or what are we here?
Time
Like,
to serve. Time to serve the soup. Okay. So topic one.
soup's up. Is that a
Soups.
word? Is that a
There you
thing?
go.
I don't know.
There you go. Soups. Next time I'm gonna bring a triangle. Come and get it. Um, okay. So a couple weeks in a row, we're doing WatchCrunch here, and WatchCrunch Max from the WatchCrunch channel, with Andrew Morgan, the hands from Watchfinder, roasts my watch collection, the second in the series of the Anachronist
Anachronist.
podcast. Sorry, and so like he started off with the first one with Evan from You're Terrific, and now he's got Andrew. I mean, like, what a 1-2 lineup
Yeah,
to start up the podcast, man. The guy Max is really got
he-
something going
yeah,
there, especially
heavy
with his
hitters.
yeah, and his social media, right? And so he gets Andrew on there, and apparently Andrew is doing some sort of a tour, I guess maybe to meet his fans or meet the Watchfinder fans. I mean, like he said something about having a successful meetup in the UK and decided to bring it across over here, and was I think in New York, and now in Seattle. That's where Max is based out of, and he kind of Max put Andrew on the spot here, right? He was like, I have 3 watches here, and and I want to play a little game that we play in the States, and maybe I don't know if they play that in other parts of the world, but it's F Marry Kill, or F as
Yeah,
in fornication, but like the mean, like the dirty way to say
yeah.
it. So which watches would he F Marry Kill? And oh, by a surprise, these are my watches, Andrew. Max said, and really put Andrew on the spot, right? And so Max had a 5-digit Submariner, right? And he had a Pam 915, I think it was, and a Willard, right? Was it a
Yep.
Willard? I think, yeah.
Willard.
And so 3 watches in his collection, and he had Andrew make the selection. I think Andrew said that he would marry the sub, F the Panerai, and kill the
Kill the Willard. Yep.
kill the Willer. Yeah. And so fun little exercise. And you know what? Um, I thought maybe, I'd like to get Clayton's opinion on that, like what he would do with those 3 watches. But wait a second. Let's put him more on the spot, right?
Uh-oh.
Clayton, I want you to F Mary Kill my 3 watches here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot, and and
Uh,
and you on the chat. Please play along. I would like to hear what you guys have to say. Go ahead, Clayton.
all right. Well,
So I had the Rolex. Let me set up. I had the Rolex Submariner, no date, 214060 as a reference. The 41 millimeter that came out a couple years ago. I have a Cosmonaut, Breitling Cosmonaut. I forget the model number, and Pam Luminor Pam 176.
okay. So F is pretty easy. Like, I don't know that I'm a Panerai ownership kind of guy, but if I go away for a weekend and I want a little tryst, like the Pam baby. So yeah, I'll F the Panerai. Um
It's just so confusing.
yeah, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
And then we'll do, oh gosh. So I love the Navitimer, but that's a vintage, right?
Yeah, well, 90s, yeah. Yeah, so
90
technically, yeah, yeah,
neo vintage.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh
the loom, the tritium on the loom, it doesn't work anymore. You know what I
okay.
mean? Like, it's just yeah.
Yeah. As cool of a watch I think that
Oh,
is, I
oh, and
think
also one more thing about it. One more, I'm sorry, Clayton. It is two-tone. So like the bezel it's hard to see, but the bezel here is gold.
yeah. Okay.
I don't
Hmm.
know if that helps or not, but
Yeah, you're pushing an arranged marriage on me here. Uh, I think I have to. I think I do have to marry the sub, even though it didn't
mm,
really work out. We're gonna give it a second try. We're gonna get remarried here, and
yeah,
as cool as that Navitimer is, it's awesome. But
you're
maybe I
gonna
won't
kill it.
kill it. I'll just send it away. Yeah, we don't have to
Uh,
kill
okay, okay. Well, fair
it.
enough. I'm sorry. I knew I was gonna put you on the spot all day. I was like, I'm doing this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get Clayton. I can't wait to he yeah. Um Justin is saying Max likes to make his content awkward.
Yeah.
Did you notice? Did you notice the bad joke, the dad watch joke that he said? You know, I'm gonna put you
Yeah.
in between a lug and a hard place. I'm like, ah,
Yes.
this is so
I don't know if it's like, is he trying to be like, between 2 ferns, like, awkward, but, like, planned awkwardness? I don't think he's pulling it
well,
off. I think it's just straight up awkward.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's doing a terrible job. That
Yeah.
if that's what he's trying to emulate, but I mean, I think, you know, I think he's if he just stops being weird about it, right? If he just
Yeah.
stops being like, telling these bad jokes or tell jokes but be funny about it, right? I think he's got potential. You know what I mean? And obviously we know he does because his channel has grown very successfully. He started the WatchCrunch like a social media with that, for watch enthusiasts and collectors. And so like, he's got everything that all the tools I feel like to be successful at whatever he does. He just the humor is a little flat. Like
Yeah.
this is what I wish this was Evan doing all the stuff that Max was doing.
Right.
Because if Evan was spending the time with the social media stuff, like creating that a platform like that and having these podcasts and meeting all these other people. I mean, he was just like not gonna. He should just stop what he's doing this 9 to 5 and just focus more on the YouTube content because I think he'd kill it.
Right.
Max has got talent, but enough with the bad jokes, right?
Yeah, or maybe just have, like, yeah, if he had maybe, he's very talented at making videos,
Hmm.
obviously, and,
Hmm.
content, but maybe, yeah, somebody else with him to sort of take the pressure off
Yeah,
of, the hosting, like,
not a
this and
bad
doing the
idea.
interviews, comic relief maybe
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if
I
him and Evan could
identify
get together, that would be great for
yeah,
that, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, they were kinda awkward,
Yeah,
together,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
they
yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
true.
But I identify more with the Watch Crunch, like, written articles, the website, more than I do the videos, but no, it's great
Mm,
that he has these guests on, like, that I think he's a well-respected guy in the community, and these people are happy to help him out and go on his web so it's all good, it's cool.
yeah. Justin saying killed the Seiko as is right in the world. Okay. Hey, Chris from the Watchline. How you doing, buddy? Hey, Stefan is here. How you doing, Stefan? Good to see you. That was the only reasonable decision for those choices. Okay, so Justin's jumping in here. He says F cosmonaut, marry a sub, kill the Pam. Um, Pam is I'm saying F Pam, marry the sub, kill the Cosmo. So basically, just
He's with
switching there.
me.
Yep. Carejoy. I love the Watch House. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Amma says Andrew seems like a good guy when he isn't doing clickbait and shit. Like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a little bit, right? Scott said, I don't know. Does anyone actually use WatchCon? Um, good point. I think people do. I signed up for it. I go there once in a while. It seems like people are on it. I there's so many social media platforms out there. Like I can barely post like keep up the posting in Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a little much for me. But yeah, I mean, I think there's people who are on there.
I have used things for my podcast, like they did that, micro brand March Madness thing that, Keith and I, referenced, um, but I'm not signed up or anything.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Stefan is saying went on it once and SU, I guess sucked and it sucked.
Yeah,
Okay,
I guess.
I
A
guess.
lot of asterisks there, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think it's the C, the K, the E, the yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
sucked.
yeah. We figured it out, Stefan. We got you. We got you.
Uh,
Well, anyway, I mean, hey, thanks for playing. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
how about, Max's watches for you? What would you keep it in the order that, Andrew did?
Um, so yeah, I mean, I would say marry the sub. I would, yeah, 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 I would marry the sub, after Pam and kill the Seiko.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like with the Seikos, like you can just like cycle through them pretty
yeah,
quickly, right? The other watches not so much, right?
really.
At
Yep.
Pam, I know there's a lot of available on the secondary. You can find good prices, etc. Sub is like, you definitely want to hold on,
Yeah,
for
that
I mean
one
for
for
me,
sure. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. When
yeah,
if we're just talking about those three watches, right?
yeah,
Um, Justin saying, I appreciate that Andrew said that 5-digit Rolex are the last true Rolex. I feel the same way. Good point, Justin. That was something that I never really thought about too much, or placed into too much thought about the 5-digit versus the new iterations of the Submariner. And he's right, right? That it's the last true Rolex in a sense that it's real toolish.
yeah.
It's nothing really special about it, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, Clayton, I don't know if you've held a 5-digit sub, or any of the ones like like ceramic, right? Pre-ceramic bezel.
Yeah.
But and I have, and it kind of feels a little chintzy, you
Yeah,
know?
my one of my clients has Kermit, the pre-ceramic Kermit. And I usually ask to handle it whenever I possibly can. And well, his was super beat up too. He's not a watch guy. He got it for his birthday,
Hmm.
years and years and years ago, and he wears it for everything. He had to the bezel didn't turn, like one of the springs had actually come through. And like I like to wear my watches, and I can appreciate when a watch is
Yeah,
has some wabi sabi, but even I was like, oof, this is rough.
yeah.
But no, yeah, you're right. The bracelets and clasps are
Hmm.
are nothing special.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think maybe one of the reasons I didn't connect with the Submariner I had was because I don't know, I didn't feel like it would age, but at
Hmm.
the same time, maybe like a modern bracelet, you'd like to mix and
Hmm.
match parts to make my
Hmm.
perfect Submariner.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I like the modern iteration more than
Yeah,
Fred, because it felt like a little, but it's crazy to think, like, it felt a little chintzy, but it feels like a proper tool watch, right?
yeah,
Like, it feels like like, we've seen people beat up these watches, right? Like your friend, we've heard the stories, like these watches take a licking, right, and keep on ticking, no,
yeah,
whatever that, for whatever that's worth. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I just like the Max case, the Maxi indices. I like that look far better, than the previous, than the earlier versions. But
yep,
anyway, to each his own, right? To each his own.
yep,
Um, but thanks, Justin, for bringing that up. Okay, so great job there with that one. Let's jump into a really interesting long video, watches TV, Morgan Stanley Report, watch market performance with Oliver Miller. We told the chat, don't worry, don't focus on the whole thing. Here's what you need to focus on, because what we're talking about,
yep.
and take it away, Clayton.
Yeah, so this video is an hour and 40 minutes. But it's also in podcast form. If you search like whatever app you use for podcasts and type in watches TV, you can listen to it because there are some graphics in the video, but it's fine in podcast form. I don't think you lose anything there. So this is Oliver Mueller is the co-author of the Morgan Stanley report that came out, I guess, at the end of March, right when Watches and Wonders was happening. Just the Swiss watch sort of market performance analysis. So we're going to go over a few things. The top 10 turnover, he said the big four, I think Rolex, Patek, AP, and Richard Mille are 42% of all Swiss watch market share, which is crazy to me.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. We'll do that. But yeah, it's all in the same thing. Swatch Group, he was a little disappointed in there, and we'll get more into it in a bit. He was a little disappointed in their performance. Omega and Longines are the only two in the top 10. That
Mhm.
has a lot to do with the Chinese market. Um, and as things open up again, but the Chinese government is encouraging more spending in China and less tourism because they need to get that going back again. But hopefully, Omega and Longines and Tissot, because Tissot actually fell out of the top 10.
Mhm.
So hopefully that will help because they rely heavily on those Asian markets. They were among the first brands to get in there. So
Yeah.
that's why they do so well there. And then let's just highlight some things. Rolex, obviously, number one, 30% of the market share, right? So
Wow.
that's essentially more than one out of every four Swiss watches essentially is purchased as a Rolex. which is just nuts when you think about it.
Hmm.
When we, it's seemingly that nobody can get them. They're selling them, obviously. Who knows where they're going after they leave the authorized dealer, but they are selling. Volume it grew by 14%. And one of the things this gentleman said is that they're really trying to keep up with demand. Demand is about 2 million Rolex per year, and they produce about 1.2 million. So they
Mm.
just can't keep up.
Mm.
It's crazy. It's what they're actually producing is about 50% of the demand. So
Yeah.
it's just how can they do it, right? And they're trying to figure out their retail network. He actually thinks they're going to do what AP and Patek have done and eliminate some of the retail and do their own thing.
Mm.
Get out of authorized dealers, not all, but some, and control it themselves. Um, let's see. Rolex volumes, along with the Moon Swatch, kind of saved the bacon for the Swiss watch industry because volumes are way down, but profits going up. And that's another thing I want to talk about a little bit with Watch Eric's video. Are we getting priced out of watches? Are we going to be priced out in like 5 to 10 years? And will
Mm.
that discourage people? I think we'll talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
more in his video. Number two is Cartier. They're focusing on icons, not really on new product lines. They always seem to fail. They're doing some crazy high end stuff too, like the Mass Mysterious and all those crazy things they release. Omega had an okay year, but he thinks they can do better. He has a soft spot for Omega, but he thinks again with China coming back that they'll improve. He also commended Rolex, Omega, and Tudor. They're the only three brands in his mind that are focusing on chronometry and just excellent timekeeping, and putting money and resources into it, like Omega has done with that new, what's the system that they're using now?
Metas.
No, well, they released in that one watch. I can't think of it right now. Spirec,
Oh,
or it's yeah, something.
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
forgot.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said that he really he's happy to see that there's still that kind of innovation with timekeeping, because not a lot of brands are really focusing on it. I think, like, some are, like Breitling is
Mm.
a little bit too, but he really commended those brands. AP hit the $2 billion mark in sales this year. Patek is he gave kudos to them for canceling the Nautilus, for discontinuing that. He thought it took some real stones to do that, because they really don't want to be known like AP is known for one watch. Patek doesn't want to be, but then of course they've re-released them and all that. And then he covered Richard Meals in there, and then Longines, again, Chinese market, IWC. He thinks IWC, Breitling, and Vacheron, which and the top 10 here, can all be billion-dollar brands. Maybe this year, they can all have over $1 billion and sell. The Billionaires Club, he called it.
Mm.
So that's exciting. That's good.
Hmm.
And Breitling, he's afraid that they won't continue to grow because they've been riding this wave. They're into the top 10 for the first time in quite a while. I can't remember the last time, but because they don't have any hold on the Chinese market whatsoever, because there are a lot of big watches.
Yeah.
So he thinks a lot of focus, they're trying to get in there. So he thinks that's why they're kind of going down to smaller watches, and also geared a little towards females, because like
Hmm.
Cartier and of course like
Hmm.
Longines, Tissot, and Omega do well in that as well. So then, just summing up the top 10, these are the crazy numbers. Like I said, the big four make up 42% market share. 15 brands make up 75% of the entire Swiss
Wow.
watch market share. When you keep in mind that there are about 600 brands that are considered Swiss watch brands. So the other 585 brands make up that other 25%, which is the numbers are just crazy. Rolex has 40% of the Swiss market share in the US.
Wow.
So even higher than global.
Surprising, right?
He also likes Hermes, in their watches, $500 million
Mm.
in watch sales, which is pretty impressive just for watches. I
Mm.
thought that was pretty
Hmm.
surprising. He likes what GP and UN are doing. The
Mm.
Laureato, a lot of people are buying that, not necessarily as a replacement, but they can't get the other integrated bracelet sports watches, so a lot of people are going for the Laureato. And then the other thing I wanted to do was just talk about the Swatch group a little bit, because he thinks they're in trouble a little bit. They have 17 brands. They underperformed last year across the board. They rely on Omega heavily.
Hmm.
Omega's about 66% of I don't know what the numbers were, profit or market share, volume, whatever, but they rely heavily on Omega. Longines and Tissot cannot just rely on China to survive. They need to diversify a little bit in his mind. Um, we all love Breguet. They're just
Yeah.
struggling. They're not doing well. He thinks Blancpain's doing pretty well. And the other smaller brands like Hamilton,
Mm,
Mito, Certina, he's okay with those brands, but he just thinks they're too big. And the Hayek is not focused on helping these brands. He's just
mm,
focused on machinery and pumping out watches.
mm,
That's his sole focus. He
mhm,
doesn't. So he just wishes that and the staggering number is Rolex is about 9 billion in sales globally. Tudor is close to, I think they add another 600 or 700. Uh, so those two brands outsell all 17 Swatch Group brands combined.
amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
So, and I'll just end it here because I really think you guys should watch it. But and then with the smaller brands outside of the Moon Swatch was a phenomenon, but that doesn't mean that there's success. That's just like a one-off in his
Yeah.
mind. You can't really sustain that year after year after year. And he thinks this is where Apple Watch is really it's hurting these cheaper like quartz models and
Mm,
inexpensive automatic
interesting.
brands. Yep. Yeah, the Apple Watch sold 2.7 times the volume of the entire Swiss watch industry. And these are the watches, the Tissot's and the
Mm,
Swatches. These are the ones that are really hurting from that. So he talked about Richemont a little bit, but I'll let you guys. I've talked enough about this,
yeah.
but I just some of these numbers were pretty surprising to me, and I just thought
Yeah.
it was interesting. And it is from a guy who co-wrote the article and
Mm.
co-wrote the study. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. I was really surprised about the numbers for Rolex. I didn't really. I knew they were popular, obviously, and people are trying to get them, me included. I didn't realize that they took up such a chunk of the share of sales. Of all the luxury brands. I did not realize they were that much of a juggernaut. I knew they pumped out like over a million watches a year, but I thought like Omega did that in its sleep. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, is selling those. I think Rolex probably has a probably high sale ratio. You know what I mean? Like they probably
Yeah.
sell most of where some of these other brands have a lot of models that just sit there. Look, I know, some of these ladies they just probably sit there too, but maybe not. Maybe they sell. Maybe they fly off the shelves as well. So really really surprised about that figure. Surprised about how um, not well Swatch is doing, as you highlighted.
Yeah.
Surprised about, and I guess it makes sense because of the lockdowns in China, right? That Tissot and Longines haven't been doing as well. The Longines stayed in the top 10, Tissot falling out of the top 10 because I had a buddy who went to Hong Kong a couple years ago, and it's almost all Tissot. Like everybody, it's Tissot
Hmm.
is huge over there, right? I feel like Longines, however, and to a certain extent Tissot have made some headway here. I feel like they'd have. I know a lot of my collector friends have Longines, but maybe it's just with the collectors. I mean, maybe your average like person just doesn't consider Longines. I would think it's one of these watches where it's on the shelves, people can see it.
Yeah.
It's in Macy's. It's in like a lot of places. Like and they're good looking, right? I mean, they're pulling out from their vintage catalog and their classics, and they're good looking watches. So surprise, and I think it's because of general economic conditions, maybe that's why a lot of these numbers are depressed, of course. And Tissot, I think man, I thought the PRX was hugely successful. Maybe that doesn't translate here in the States, as much as I thought it did. I
Maybe
mean,
it's all they're selling.
and maybe you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe it's
Yeah.
all they're selling. I mean, maybe like their NBA watches are not doing great. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, or whatever. A good point. Maybe that's all that they're selling is the PRXs too. And if it wasn't for the PRX, they'd be like non-existent. I mean, like I wouldn't even. It's that's probably the case because like I don't think I'd ever consider a Tissot in the collection, especially when there's other brands like a Seiko, like especially with their divers. Yeah, I just go Seiko, no brainer. But with that PRX, man, like I think that's a good looking watch. I had a couple on the channel. I've given a couple away as well.
Yep.
And that's a good looking watch. Longines good looking. Um, Sad to hear about Breguet. That was one of the things that I heard because I didn't watch the whole thing yet. I just went to some of the segments that you wanted to highlight. Sad to hear about Breguet. Kind of knew that that was happening, right?
Yeah.
But like to actually really hear it, and it almost sounds like the way I might be reading into it too much, but it feels like he thinks like Regue's like on life support,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
what it sounded
And
like.
and if it wasn't for the fact that they were wrapped up in this Swatch umbrella, maybe Regué would be gone. You know what I mean? And then maybe a few years later, somebody would
Yeah.
buy them out and try to revive the brand. But I
Yeah.
think like Breguet without Swatch, I mean, Breguet would be done, toast. Surprised about Blancpain, right? And that was another thing that I heard from him, and you highlighted, doing very very well. I guess it's all relative. Well for Blancpain, right?
Right.
And yeah, the Moon Swatch. I think that kind of made sense. I don't know. I mean, I knew that um, the watch market probably wouldn't have been as strong in the last year as it was a couple years before. And so, if we're comparing those numbers to 2021, yeah, I think everything is down, but not really sure. And he may have mentioned this in the discussion. I like to see those numbers compared to 2018 or 2019, right?
Yeah.
Before we had a lot of influx of cash into our economy from all the stimulus, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to find that out if
It's
he mentions
interesting to
it.
see the brands 'cause, I don't they don't give the numbers, but online you can find, like, Breitling has just done this amazing I mean, they were maybe in the late, high, low teens or whatever, like 18, 17, 18, and every year they're just steadily climbing. It's fun to
Yeah.
see that. Tag has fallen off a little bit in
Mhm.
the few years. Tissot was in the top 10. I think they're out now. Longines
Yeah.
has always been strong.
Yeah.
Cartier is 2 now. Cartier is 2. They've
Mhm.
taken Omega over the last 2 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think this year the profits were a record high, volume was a record low. So that
Yeah.
was my question is like, the prices are gonna have to go up if they're making and
Yeah.
shipping less watches, right? So when do we get priced out? When are we like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe we can't buy super expensive watches anymore because you're seeing, especially in Europe, the prices are going up. They're having a few price hikes a year.
Mm. Fill me in, Clayton. Was this just um related to the Swiss watch
Yes,
industry?
just yeah,
Yeah. So,
yep.
I mean, obviously Seiko being left out, Casio being left out, a lot of the, some German brands, independents. There's a lot of
Citizen.
other, yeah, Citizen. There's a lot of other brands and non-Swiss brands like would be interested on a whole picture here if it's also some business being pulled away from those non-Swiss brands, taken away from the Swiss watching industry. If that, how much that had to an effect on it as well.
Yeah,
This steeper competition,
and certainly
uh,
the Apple Watch, like he says in
and
there
the app,
too. Yeah.
right, the Apple Watch. So yeah, so we'd love to know if that was touched upon or if there's some other report that includes that.
He
Let's
doesn't mention he did not mention that. The other thing
mm,
I thought real quick before I forget is, he hinted at a Richemont LVMH merger.
ah
I don't know if he has some I've never heard of that, maybe
mm,
you guys have, but, he hinted that, that might be happening, that LVMH could use because Richemont, I think, is doing pretty well,
yeah,
with Cartier and,
yeah,
like, the crazy like, Van Cleef,
hmm,
with those, nutso jewelry,
yeah,
watches that they do, like, they're so he's really impressed with the way Richemont he thinks they're healthy. They have some brands that are struggling, no momentum with JLC, all that kinda stuff, but, overall, Cartier, he's really pleased, so, I don't know, that'd be interesting.
yeah, for sure. Justin St. Tissot, the official timekeeper of La Tour de France. MAZAL saying a lot of companies enjoyed the inflated prices the COVID years made happen. Now they want to do that kind of money all the time. This has not just happened in the watch industry for sure, and that's why like
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what those in comparison to the pre-COVID years, the overall health of the industry. Design Atelier, hey, greetings from Rua. Hey, Design, what's going on? How are you? Um, uh, Steve complimented you on your
Oh, geez,
tremendous,
thank you.
very, very tremendous. Very,
Oh, I
no,
don't
you
know.
you
It
take
felt like I was
copious
rambling.
notes. No, no, it's great. Justin saying they need to crank up that Zulu time production for sure. Just say no to Tissot PRX, very nice. Underachieving watch collector. I am tempted with the Zulu time. I am tempted too. I like
I
that
tried
watch.
one on and, they have a Longines boutique in New York City, just one store in a really fancy mall,
Hmm,
with
hmm.
and, it was it wore a little big. I thought the big eye worked better on me, but that's
Gotcha.
just my wrist. Yep.
Yeah. Justin saying Brigade needs a sweet collab with Waco to get their hype up.
Yes, that's right.
That's funny. Uh, Design saying Legend Diver is the only Longines that interests me. KR Joyce saying heck with PRX that the So 1973 Heritage 516 Auto Chrono are killer designs. Okay, I got to take a more
Yeah,
of a look on that in that direction. It's a fine balance. If the demand falls off, the prices will come down again. My bank account says I'm already priced out of most luxury
right.
items, says UWC. Um, what do you think of the new Christopher Ward watch? Yeah, we I talked about it a little bit on Friday. Clayton, what you think about the 12?
I don't know. I'm not traditionally like a huge fan of the brand. Obviously, I think it's getting a lot of heat for, looking like the Chopek or looking like a combination of a bunch of different watches.
Yeah,
Was the designer on this? Didn't he design for Chopek,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, it's really no different than Gerald Genta taking his stuff to a bunch of different brands, is it? So, I mean, if we're in support of that, I don't know.
I,
I'm not sure I'll buy one, but,
yeah.
yeah, good for C. Ward. I think they'll be a huge hit.
I like it. Um, I have to admit that I had a really long day and I was really tired and yesterday and I had it in the shopping cart and I was almost ready to pull the trigger.
Oh,
I pulled back. I pulled back because I was trying to check my emotions at the door. I'm like, let's just, this is like eating like a pint of ice cream at the end of the day. I'm not gonna
right,
do it.
right,
I'm not
right.
gonna do it because I'll regret it. But not that I would regret it. I mean, I just want to think with a clearer head, because I am interested in it. I do like that look, that integrated sports bracelet look.
Yeah,
I'm the dial that I am drawn to is that ice blue dial.
yeah.
However, I am a little concerned. I had a Seiko Sumo, the ice diver with a very light blue dial, and I eventually sold it because I found it kind of difficult to read. So
Mm.
I'm worried that that would be the case. Um,
Dial
so
looks
I,
very busy too, so how is legibility affected with the cross pattern on the,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
especially with that light, and if the indices have like that, are outlined with that the stainless steel, like that I have a hard time reading that. So I'm just worried. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to see one in person to actually make a choice.
right.
But maybe I'd go with a dark blue or that gray, um, as an alternative. Really would like to see it in hand first before I make a decision.
Yeah.
Um, Cowboy Swami saying, "Is the Apple Watch killing the industry? Another crisis?" I don't think so. Clayton, do you think the Apple Watch is killing the industry?
No, if anything, like he said, the, lower priced watches, I think it's
Yeah,
hurting. I don't know if
yeah,
it'll kill it, but
yeah,
it's definitely taking it because those are the people who, you know, may in the past have spent a few $100s on a quartz watch, and now they're just going Apple Watch, and maybe they're just looking at more expensive
yeah,
timepieces.
yeah. Cowboy Swami. Let me change my answer a little bit. I think the jury's still out because, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of young people out there who um, gravitate to the Apple Watch because they're so tied into technology that they wouldn't consider perhaps a mechanical watch or even a quartz watch. Um, but again, reserve my judgment because eventually they'll grow up, and maybe they'll taste will change and they'll move towards a mechanical watch. Um, but I personally, I hope not. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. But I'm still gonna reserve judgment
You know what I see
on.
a lot of young people wearing, like, and it's probably ironical and it's coffee shops and stuff, but it's like the A158, A168 Casios. I see a lot of
Oh
those
yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, good. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
on, like, I'm a horrible judge of how old people
Yeah,
are, but I
yeah, yeah,
assume they're, like, early 20s.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, design is finishing up the Deech interview video. Can't wait for that one, Deech.
Can we get a Bruins update too, by the way? I was watching
Yeah,
that,
yeah. If
yeah.
somebody could give us a Bruins update, I would appreciate that. Deech going to Aruba, meeting with Design Atelier recently,
Nice.
and doing a little watch discussion, maybe a little watch review or collection review. Love to see that design. Just waiting for that. We've been waiting.
That's
Um,
cool.
Scott says, I think they should refactor Breguet into a very small, limited run, similar to FP Journe or Cartier Privy collection. Interesting, interesting.
Hmm.
I think there is a market for Breguet. It's just the size. It's just the size of FPJ. Yeah, I think that I think there is a market. It's not as big as it should be, right? I mean, I think people.
Why is
Um,
that?
I don't know. I think price point has a lot to do with it, right? And then there's so many like there's just the watch market is just so saturated, right?
Are the designs too, like, old-timey for some people? I like them,
Hmm.
but I don't
Hmm.
know. Are they a little too maybe not old-timey, like, traditional? Maybe, like, FP Journe has a
Yeah.
kind of a modern sort of
Yeah.
surreal look to
Yeah.
them a little bit, and,
Ye
they're very, like, grandfather clock a little bit.
yeah, I think I think you're right. I think there might be something to that.
Yeah,
Um,
but they definitely like,
mhm.
almond brigades are certainly not traditional looking at all.
I
So,
think yeah, I think you really need a home run when it comes to a sports watch,
yeah,
right? And so the Marine, their sporty dive watch it's more of a sport watch. I don't think it's really a dive watch. I mean, I love that watch. I would take that in a heartbeat, but not everybody would.
yeah.
The Chronos, the Type 20s, they're okay. I mean,
Yeah, they're
I'm not crazy about them. I mean, I'd rather have a Niva timer, you
Topper
know.
had a funky one that I just did not like with, like, orange on the it looked like it
Yeah,
was trying to be something,
that
I
was like
didn't
a
like it.
limited edition with the
Right,
orange
yeah,
loom pan.
yeah,
Yeah, um, yeah. So I think that kind of hurts them. Uh, but um, but those in the know, those who enthusiast collectors know that that's not part of
right.
their overall plan. I mean, it's just these beautiful dressy pieces. And yeah, so I think it's price point. I think it's the lack of a popular sports piece to supplement the rest of the brand. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other reasons why I forgot. Maybe the old timey look, yeah, brigade hands, brigade numerals.
And Hayek's just not putting any resources into helping them probably either by the sounds of it. Maybe they're just I don't know, they're just a
Well,
forgotten.
in the marketing sense, yeah, I
Yeah,
think they're under
they don't get help
represented.
from the Swatch group.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, they're beautiful watches, built great. I mean, like I think in that sense, they're not lacking. It's just
Oh,
under
yeah,
marketed.
it's a shame,
Yeah,
really.
very
Yeah.
much so. Um, Design Atelier saying, question to the panel: what would you like to see on the PRX? I'd like to render it in my next video. Also, something. Well, maybe like a pattern dial, maybe. I think different colors is just too easy. I want to make it a little bit harder on you,
Yes.
Jason. So maybe like some sort of pattern on the dial would do. What do you think, Clayton?
Um, I don't know if he can do this, but just I tried on I like the PRX chronograph. I think it looks
Yeah,
awesome. I would buy one if it wasn't I tried one on last summer and it's just a little too much of a watch for me. And I know it's hard to reduce thickness and automatic chronographs, but boy, I would like to just a little more manageable. That'd be killer. I don't know what
yeah,
you can do about that, Jason,
yeah,
but
yeah. Do something about that. Uh, okay, let me scroll down. Oh, it looks like it's an overtime 3-3
Oh yes,
for
good.
you.
Oof. I was worried
Let's
there when it
see.
was 2 nothing Panthers.
Let me finish the comments really quick and then jump into our last one because the time is running short. A lot of people will use their smart phones and don't bother with a watch at all. That is a bigger influence than the Apple Watch. Maison, great point. I wear watches, and sometimes I use my phone to tell me the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when I'm wearing the Cosmonaut. Like it just takes me too long to figure out what time it is.
Yeah.
So I'll just look at my phone.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I guess I use the wristwatch at this point as less of a time telling piece and more like a kind of like a male jewelry kind of piece. I
Me
mean,
too.
so
That's why I have a watch with no indices
I
or,
need, you know
there
what?
yeah.
That's what I should have been doing. I just had a moment of clarity here. Like I should be getting the same watch as you have, Clayton, because I'm not. What am I? I'm not reading. I should just get a beautiful dial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
It's all about the dial.
it's all about the dial. Scott Tarlow. I mean, the Brigade Tradition is one of the most influential watches in the industry. I just shows up in other smaller brands and instead of people buying the tradition itself. Yeah, that look is definitely kind of like not mimic, but I mean like it's influential in the design of other pieces. So we mechanical luxury watch wearers are in a minority. We might be. I mean, we're in an echo chamber here, right? So we're hanging out with other enthusiasts and watch collectors. So of course, um, we like mechanical watches, but I think the rest of the world they could just give a flying f, right?
Yep.
Um, okay, let's move on. Let's move on because we got
Sure
less than
thing.
15 minutes here. Um, Next video, Sanjay called out. We gave him the day off and we scrambled for a video. So I called an audible and I got picked a Watch Eric. Too late to get in the watch game. Um, what is MAZAL? And so look, Eric is kind of hard to follow sometimes because he really goes in circles.
Yeah.
And he was like, I like my favorite line uh, in the beginning is like, he asked himself the question, is it too late to get in a watch game? He's like, maybe, maybe not. It's just,
I've never watched one of his videos before. This is the first time.
I find him when I first discovered he was working for whatever jeweler he worked for, and it was under their YouTube channel or something like that. And I just found him entertaining because I thought, this guy is like must be on so much blow, and he's
Oh,
just
yeah.
talking crazy, and I was just like crack up, right? And so I subscribe, and every once in a while I watch a video. I watch him for the entertainment factor. I mean, he's worked in the industry for a while, so I think he, as a businessman, knows what he is talking about. He may not communicate it um, great in a
Yeah.
great way per se, but anyway, let me just highlight some of the things that he said. Now, he kind of divided up the video into two aspects, right? Is
Yep.
it too late to get into watch game if you are a watch enthusiast or collector, and if you're getting into being a dealer, right? And so with a watch collector, he uses the example of the Nautilus. Is it too late to get a Nautilus at retail? And it certainly is. And 10 years ago, as per Eric, they were practically giving them away for free, or I mean that was his expression. That's not what he
Right.
meant,
They
but
were
that you can go in
undesirable.
there and get it. Yeah, they weren't
Yeah.
desirable. You can go in there and pay retail. Then it took off. It took off. And now he's saying, look, if you want one, you can get it, but you're going to have to pay for it. The days of you getting this watch at retail or even, you know, or getting even the call, right? Or even being able to put yourself on a list to get it, it just,
Yeah.
good luck, right?
Impossible.
It's impossible. Um, and then what else are we saying, like it depends, it depends on, like, what watches you're focusing on, right? Some of these watches, the ship has sailed in regards to getting it, like the Nautilus, with retail. The prices of, like, the the Panda, Daytona, right, going astronomical, especially in the last couple of years. The Royal Oak going up to like $70,000, prices that he himself was like saying it's unfathomable, unthinkable. Now they've come down a little bit and they're still way above retail, but instead of being in the 50, 60, $70,000 range, you're seeing them in the 30 and $40,000 range, especially with the Daytonas. And so, like, look, if you want it, you can get it. But getting one at retail again, very, very hard, especially with those two pieces. And
Yep.
he said, like, like, look, I mean, when the ceramic Daytonas came out, or just before the ceramic Daytonas came out, people were like thinking it's going to be impossible for them to ever get it. It was too late to get them a steel bezel Daytona, but those prices have come down uh, reasonably in the last a couple a year or so. Like, I think those are, you can find some in the 20s, right? Which is still way above retail,
Yeah.
but you can still get it. So he's of the opinions, like, just maybe you shouldn't, if you're getting into this, maybe you shouldn't focus on these watches, right?
Right.
Um, and so using the example of the 40 millimeter day date, another watch that really like took off in the last couple of years, and price wise is coming way back down close to retail, these watches. So it sounds like, and this is just me uh, analyzing what, or trying to digest what he was saying. Some of the high pieces are just, you're never going to be able to get, or at the price that you want to get it at. You
Yeah.
have to just,
You can get them. Just gonna
you
have
can
to
get them.
pay
It's
for
just
the nose. Yeah.
pay for the nose. But those are only a few pieces, right? I mean, there's a lot of these pieces that went up recently, come down. You can still get them. He's saying, also buy what you like, man. Just buy what you like. And that was like one of the key takeaways that I got
Yep.
from that. Um, eh, then he went and switched over to the dealer aspect. And again, it was like, is it good time to be a dealer? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Sorry, Panthers won. Looks like, Clayton.
Ah,
So sorry about that,
yeah.
man. Um, and uh, and so um, he um, he pointed out a couple of things um, in the last couple of years why it's a little bit harder, right? So uh, he number one, the COVID dealers, right? That's they don't deal in COVID, but they came up in COVID, right? There was a whole lot of people who jumped into the dealer game. Prices were going up, everybody was making money. He's like, it's easy to do when prices are going up, to get in here, get involved, make some money, and whatnot.
Yep.
But when the prices and when the world kind of had this little situation with the economy, that little situation, but then the inflation going up, war in Ukraine, prices, a lot of these watches, came down and wiped out a lot of people who got in during this time, right? Because they just, you know, came in. I mean, they just couldn't sustain it, right? Um,
Thought it
and
was gonna last.
Yeah, thought it was gonna last,
Yeah.
right? The good times roll. And then he's also there's also these new wave of MAZAL deals. Now MAZAL, he explained, is like when it's more B2B, it's more like business to business, more dealer to dealer, right?
Yep.
When they agree on something, it's their word. MAZAL, it means a promise, right? And so now you have a lot of these dealers popping up on social media throwing that term around, and nobody knows who these guys are, right? I mean, like, there's no reputation here. Like, at least he's been dealing this for a long time. He's worked with other dealers. He knows these guys for a while. When they say Mazal Mazal, it's true to their word. So you got to watch out for the reputation of other dealers who you're going to be doing business if you're trying to get into the business, right?
Yep.
And again, third, profits were crazy in the last couple of years. Profits are coming down. The margins are tighter. People are dropping like flies. It's hard to figure out, who's trustworthy. Again, going back to that Mazal concept. And so, I what I liked about this one, Clayton, and I'll give you the floor, is that when and speaking with the dealer side of it, I was in real estate. I in the early 2000s, I was in a position where I was going to start buying some multi-family homes. It never came, didn't come to fruition, but I got into real estate because, and got my real estate license because I didn't want to pay the real estate fees. I just, like, I'll buy or sell real estate, and I'll keep the fees, right? Or most of my fees, and instead of giving them away to the real estate company, I'll work for the real estate company. But like 2007, I mean 2005, 2006, the market is going nuts.
Yeah.
Money is easy. I mean, borrowing is great. and then we have, and everybody was a real estate. There's so many real estate agents, right? In there, and then like the recession in 2008, the market, the real estate market just like flops, and a lot of people like left. Like if you weren't an established agent for like 10, 15, 20 years, or if you had like a rich spouse and you were doing this as your sidekick, like everybody was just
Yeah.
wiped out after that. And so I hear, there is some understand, there's some identification I have with what he's saying in regards to dealing. Long-winded, I know, explanation. Tell
No,
me, Clayton,
very
what did
good.
you think?
Very good explanation. So similar at the housing thing, I know like a dog walker who quit and became a real estate agent. I have another friend who quit there because again, housing was last year, year before. People were selling, people were buying like crazy, and they're having a hard time now because the housing market, I wouldn't call it a crash, but it's slowed down, and people are having a hard time selling. And yeah, so they got in when the getting was good,
Mm,
just like some of these watch dealers, right? And they're finding now it's not so good. So, um, as my first watch Eric experience, I liked it. Yeah, I felt the same thing. Like, what? I don't know. What is he trying to tell me here? He was kind of, and I feel like he was literally walking around in circles behind that yacht too.
yeah.
Um, but one thing I found interesting, and I'm seeing a lot like on Facebook groups and stuff, is people, and he mentions it, people are getting the call and not
Mhm.
get taking the watches. So that might be your best bet. Like
Mm,
just
yeah, for sure.
failed calls, people
Mhm.
who just are on a list for these things or whatever, however it works. Right. And then they get the call and maybe, they just can't do it right now, or, they are in hard times as, bound to be at this time. And yeah, they surrender it. And I think that's maybe your best bet.
Yeah,
Just hope like see if he wants, let's see if Bobby wants a whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they'll call you and this guy didn't pick it up. It's yours if you want it. So
yeah,
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. The whole dealer to dealer thing is interesting as well.
yeah.
It just any time I've wanted to, I think about working in watches, it's just that aspect of
Mhm.
it, and like just trying to sell watches, it's so tough, and just
Yep.
knowing what you're looking for, and yeah, understanding like what a good buying price is, so you can actually make a little bit of money. And I know a couple of these guys that sort of just seem to do it. Out of their out of their vehicle or something.
Mhm.
There's a couple. I even sold a watch to one guy. He's very nice, but I often wonder, he has all this inventory and I don't know that he's moving them because he's just
Yeah,
always selling the same pieces. And I'm like, man, I hope this guy like doesn't lose his house.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure. Um, Chris from Watch says it's an agreement between dealers that the watch is sold on certain terms at the MAZAL.
Mazal.
Um, Eric's a good dude. Worked with him a few times. Yeah, Chris, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's great. Eric fits in Miami. um, Bobby, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Panthers win. Bruins fans can put their historic season of theirs and put up
I'm not a
in a pipe
Bruins
and
fan. I
smoke it.
just happen to live out here. I was watching it. I was hoping they would do well, but it's not surprising that they choked.
Florida, famous for hockey. Yes.
Yep.
Um, Stefan's like, why watch Eric rate getting into the game by getting any of the mentioned
Yeah.
hype pieces? Didn't want them when nobody wanted them because they looked like a 70-year-old watch. Yeah. Um,
Well, a lot of the
go
watches
for
he
it,
was
Steve.
talking about are just not in my price bracket anyway. So I was like, people are looking to get into I don't run in those circles. People are looking to get into watches with those watches.
Yeah.
The people I know looking to get in are buying Casios and
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Right. There's so many attainable and still expensive great watches. Don't need to focus on a few pieces. Yeah. So I think I think why Eric does like a lot of Rolex and AP and Richard Mille. Like I think that's what a lot of his sales are. I think that's what his a lot of the videos that he does focus on. So that's why I think he can speak to these,
yeah.
and that's why he has the opinion that he has. Look, at the end of the day, I would encourage anybody to get into the watch hobby, and it's not too late, because most of us are not in that tier or interested in that, spending that money into that types of watches, right? Right now, with all, I mean, we were talking about it with the segment that you picked, Clayton, with all the brands, 600 luxury Swiss luxury watch brands, right? Most of them needing to sell watches, right? So there is still great watches out there that you can get probably at great discounts. And we're not
Yep.
even talking, and we weren't even talking about like the Casios, the Citizens, the
Right.
Seikos, and all the German watches and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
right? So, but from his perspective, right, his clientele, the people who come to him, they're looking for the Royal Oak, they're looking for the Daytona, and they're looking for the Nautilus. So,
Yeah.
it's just a matter. That's where he was coming from.
Yep. Got it.
Scott saying, "How about them Lakers showing the Grizz ain't fine in the West?" Yeah, Lakers, man, Lakers. Well, hey Clayton, we survived
Yeah, did
another
an
watch
hour. We
soup.
made it.
We made it, man. Great job, chat. Awesome participation as always. Clayton, anything new? So no podcast this week. Maybe next week for you.
I may add tomorrow because I do have an idea.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard thinking of ideas, as you know, with your
Yeah, of
live
course.
streams and everything. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard thinking of ideas. I've had these ideas I've been thinking about all week, and last week there was just nothing, and then I knew I had no time, and it's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
I had idea block.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
This happens that way sometimes. But no,
I
I think I'm going to do a brand ownership showdown between Moser and Rolex. What it's like to own those 2 brands, and,
I think that'd be great,
yeah,
man.
so I don't know who's interested in that, but, that's what I got, so I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do, and it
Well,
probably tomorrow.
I think there's some people in our circle who have owned both who would be
Yep.
more than happy to give you some insight,
Yeah.
for sure. Anyway, so guys, please check out Clayton's podcast. Link
Thank you.
to his podcast in the description below. Link to St. J's channel also below. And hopefully, some point this week, right, Clayton? This will be out on
Yeah,
podcast
I'll
sometime
get it
today.
out, it should get out tonight or in the morning. The
Excellent.
audio was, I was trying to play with the audio, that's why there was a delay because there was some echo and stuff in the
Yeah.
last one, so, this one I think should sound great though, so it should go right up.
Excellent. And guys, have a great rest of your Sunday night. See you on Tuesday for another live stream. And take care. Have a good one.
Okay.